Yo, what's good? It's your boy No Name. Back at it again. The news cycle is going crazy, or not the news come out yet since the day of, but there's still so much that came from the reveal stream that we have to make individual videos to talk about some of these pieces. And right now, I want to talk to you about Simplex amulets. So these came out in Heist, and I was a big fan of them back then. I actually used them in my aura stacker then to really like juice out the power from some very specific modifiers. But this belt that they're getting is absolutely ridiculous, right? So I want to talk about this and give you some ideas as far as what you should be doing with these because I think they're going to be insane. I think they might even end up being a little overpriced, honestly, in this upcoming league, but you should be aware of it anyways because you're going to want this power. So what's actually changing? On the left side, you'll see the old and you'll see the new on the right side. And the major differences are -1 prefix on the amulet, which actually seems a lot bigger than it is, I found. And you now will get 100% increased effect of your explicit modifiers instead of only 25%. And this is gigantic. One of the biggest reasons that this is so gigantic actually is because there are modifiers that would not have been modified at all because based on the 25% that are not modified because of the 100%. And it's the reason I had to take away a prefix. You could think of some very good examples for things that are only +1 or +2 or +3 on an amulet that, could be doubled, but could it be increased by 25%? And so this is going to make a huge difference in those spaces. But before we get to that page, let's talk a little bit about who should be excited for this. Everyone. Genuinely everyone. Like specifically, I think it's really good for, dot builds, magic find builds, attack builds, casters, all basically everyone. But slightly different reasons. And I'll go a little bit into detail about one of these in particular, which is attack builds, because this is a problem that I've had with attack builds for a good while now, which is that if you're an elemental build, your only real amulet that like really feels good is like Omni. If we're talking about damage anyways, right? Damage amulets for attack builds feel extremely weak at the moment. You have stuff like Here's Truth and Omni, but those are Omni's a whole build definer. And Here's Truth is just a nice amulet that's easy to get your hands on. And this is the other reason I like Simplex amulets. You only need 2 mods on here. You're going to see when I get to this next page here how easy some of these could really be to create. But so I really lean into this, and especially if you're a dot build enjoyer, dot builds, you need your damage. And there's a Rutu clip that went around on patch day of him testing the new Simplex amulet and gaining almost double damage from modifying his amulet to be a Simplex, because you just only need a couple mods that are really juiced up to really like throw the power level of an item through the roof. So some of the generic possibilities you could actually have here. So on the left here, this is like, I'd say like the most generic amulet set possible here. I just have life and essence crit multi-mod and crafted frenzy charges. These are modified already by me as like an edit config. As far as like the modifiers, these are from PLB. The explicit modifiers mod does not actually do anything in PLB, so you have to edit the items yourself. And so you'll see instead of an 80 life roll, which is I think a min roll T1, it's 160. 80% crit multi is like slightly off of perfect on a deafening essence of scorn, and then that's just crafted +1 frenzy here. But now it's +2. That is an insane amulet. If you look at most of your builds, especially if you're an attack build that can scale crit, I'm willing to bet you your amulet will get just completely dumpstered by this one here. Genuinely. Take a good hard look at how good that amulet can actually be for your build. Similarly, on the right side here, you'll see that I just have a generic caster amulet. Now, this one doesn't have life on it, and that's the one downside of the change to remove a prefix from the Simplex amulets, is that if you want a damaging prefix, you have to give up life. But I give up life on a lot of my amulets in most builds anyways, or settle for crafted life, because I just can't be bothered when there's so much damage available on rare amulets, especially if you're a caster, right? You want those levels. Look at this. A +2 amulet in one mod, and you get a +2 real. So that's +2. That's an essence crit multi, which I realized as soon as I made the screenshot, I didn't feel like remaking it, that I used a lower tier essence of scorn instead of deafening, that is screaming. So you can get that all the way to 80%, just like the one on the left as well. And cast speed, that's crap, the cast speed boosted up. But that's also going to dumpster most amulets in most people's builds. Like, you should really be looking at this. But like, these are just generic things. These are low down. These are before we really get into the gritty of it. Like, look at what you could do if you start adding influence to these. This one on the left here, I believe, is actually a carbon copy of what Rue had in that clip I mentioned, where it's just +2 fizz and fizz dot multi and dot multi max rolls. doubled by the amulet. This is a Hunter Simplex. This amulet is insane. If you're playing, especially for a build like Corrupting Fever, one of my favorite builds of all time, these are the only stats that really scale your build. It's like this and generic fizz damage and generic damage. Like that's it. There's so little that actually scales our build that an amulet like this does an unholy amount for our damage, for the damage of that build. And you can replicate this with, chaos and chaos dot, or fire and fire dot for ignited enjoyers, right? Like I would really take a good hard look at this as a way to scale. Or on the right side, one that I'm actually really interested in myself, this is a deck stacking amulet. And you can actually go a step further with this. But I don't know if it was actually better or not. I don't have a deck stacking PLB of recent to compare it in. So if you guys have one, you should like put this in there and tell me if you could get better with the one I'm going to suggest afterwards. But look at that. That's just 110 decks, 24% increased decks, and 2 damage per 15 decks. Remember I mentioned earlier that the change to 100% means that there are modifiers that couldn't be modified before, but do get modified now. This is one of those because it rolls as a 1% roll, but now it is 2%. And that makes all the difference, right? That's so much stronger. That's literally doubling the percent damage that this amulet is giving you in this modifier. I mean, it's 100% increase modifier, but you get what I mean. Previously, it would have changed nothing, and now it changes everything. And that's really what this, like, what the hype around this change is lending to. And if you're curious what the other option that you could potentially go for instead is that you could also, instead of getting flat decks on here, you could use a Shaper amulet and Woke Orbit with the Redeemer Simplex amulet to get both percent increased attributes and percent increased dex as your suffixes, and then the damage per 15 dex as your prefix to add damage on. I do not, again, I don't know if there's like an investment bake point at which that's better or not. That's something you'd have to test out, but just, I'm putting the ideas out there. I just want you to be aware of the possibilities with this nonsense, right? There's a handful of other mods to watch, and this is not an exhaustive list. This is just the ones that I found that I thought of very quickly when I was staring at this change, and I was like, oh my god, there's so much I could do, and I'm probably going to find even more. And if you find more of these, or you think that there's things that I should have mentioned, you should put those down below. Like, I can already tell I missed one on this list. I mentioned rarity, but I didn't mention quality. Or not quality, quantity. My bad. Quantity of items found is a shaper prefix that rolls, or Shaper suffix, my bad, that rolls on amulets. And you can get this to be boosted, or you can get reservation efficiency. You can get mana cost reduction. You could get resistances if you really just need that resistance fix. You could get mine and trap throwing speed as a crafted or veiled mod. Remember, this works on veiled mods as well. And these can be catalyzed. So they can go even further if the modifier is able to scale further. Like that attribute one still would have room to grow with attribute catalysts on it. Like seriously, guys, thank you guys for watching. This is a quick one. Like it was not meant to be long at all. I just wanted to put this out there that Simplex amulets are looking insane. And if you're seeing people talk about it, but they're kind of here, there about it, here's why they were so adamant that you needed to be aware of how powerful these amulets are going to be coming up. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you want some more content. I'm going to be, pumping it out, especially over the course of next week, but also just over the course of the league. Also, check me out on Twitch, NoName619, or come hang out in the Discord if you want to hang out amongst people who are just, getting nuts at the game and having a great time. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Peace out. Take care.